One of the very first videos that I made on this channel was how to fully set up an enchanting setup through Apotheosis. Because this was one of my first videos, I felt like it was a little bit unclear and a little bit hard to follow, and also didn't include all of the information that it probably should have. In this video, I'm going to try to fix that. This is going to be a full enchantment setup guide that's going to walk you through every step along the way for how to get a max tier Apothic enchanting setup. We're going to talk about why you actually need two different setups, and then finally we're going to go over the Library of Alexandria, how to use it, what it does, how it works, so that you can best utilize it in your world. I'm going to try to make this video clear and straight to the point. Hope you enjoy it. Let's get into it. All right, so just to give you a sneak peek, these are going to be all the setups that we're going to use, and then finally we've got the end setups down there. Let's work through each one of these one by one. The first one is going to be your basic Minecraft. You got 15 bookshelves that you're going to be using. This is where you're going to start out at. Now, the other thing worth mentioning is that at this stage, each of these max level enchants is only going to cost 30 XP. You'll see as we move along, that XP number is going to increase dramatically, which is why I want to start off at the very beginning of this video saying you should probably have some sort of an XP farm prior to starting this, because it will take quite a bit of XP in order to work through all of these steps. If you're looking for a video on how to set that up, the last video I released was how to set up an incredibly fast XP farm that can get you thousands of levels of XP in literal minutes. So in order to go from stage 1 to stage 2, what we're going to be looking at is making 6 hell shelves. Now, these 6 hell shelves are not inherently difficult to make. You do have to have gone to the nether. You're realistically just going to need like 6 blaze rods and then 6 potions of regeneration. And they're not even the fast potion. It's literally just a gas tier and nether wart. That's it. And that'll get you these 6 hell shelves that you're going to combine with the 15 bookshelves. Now that will get you tier number 2, where you're at 45 Eterna and 33% Quanta. Enchants at this point are going to require 45 levels of XP. All right, now to go from tier 2 to tier 3, we're looking at infusing 8 hell shelves. So taking the hell shelves that we had before, leaving these 6 here and infusing until we're up to the point where we have 8 infused hell shelves and 13 normal bookshelves. In order to do that, all you have to do is take one of those hell shelves. We're going to throw it in here with some lapis and then infuse it. Now, as you can see, it's going to take quite a bit of XP in order to get all 8 of them done, requiring 45 levels to begin with. So again, make a mob farm. Now, once you're at this point, you're looking at 13 bookshelves and 8 of those infused hell shelves for tier 3. Keep in mind that we're also using the corners on this, so even if you can't see all of the bookshelves, I went ahead and added them all to the chest so that you can see exactly what each tier is. Now at this point, you're going to have 55% Quanta and 60 Eterna. In order to go from tier 3 to tier 4, we're going to make 4 seashells. Now these seashells are also not crazy difficult to make. They're literally water bottles and puffer. Now, the easiest way to make the puffer fish is by using any normal type of fish and then combining it with bamboo. This recipe right here has saved me so much time. In the past, I had to go in and get all this fish essence by getting fish seeds and getting all of these soul jars with fish in it, and you had to get a bunch of it. It's so annoying. So save yourself the time. Get some bamboo, make puffer fish using this crafting recipe right here. You need 4 of those seashells, and then you're going to drop off one of the infused hell shelves. That'll leave you with 10 bookshelves, 7 infused hell shelves, and then 4 seashelves, which puts you right here at 60 Eterna, 50% Quanta, and 12% Arcana. Now, if you're anything like me, when you start playing a mod pack, you tell some of your friends about it, and then they realize that they want to play too, and suddenly you're left in a position where you need to set up a server. Now, if your computer doesn't have the technical capacity or ability to run that server while at the same time playing Minecraft, you're probably going to look into server hosting options. And if you've been watching any of my videos for any length of time, you know that Berrybyte has been a fantastic supporter of the channel. So if you are looking for somewhere to host your server and support my channel and the content I make at the exact same time, take a look at the link at the top of the description. Berrybyte has affordable servers at basically any price point. If you realize that you didn't pick enough RAM or a strong enough CPU, you can change that. They offer one-click setup where you pick your pack and it installs the server for you. And they have server hostings all across the globe that you don't have to deal with high ping. You can host your server in a location that's closest to you. But in order to make it an even easier choice, at checkout, you can either use code JohnHall for $5 off or JohnHall20 to save 20%. Y'all go show Berrybyte some love. Let's get back to the video. Now we need this because we need to infuse 2 of these seashells. So we take 2 seashells, we throw them in here with the lapis, just like we did before, only at this point, we now have to have 60 levels of XP in order to do this max tier infusion enchant. So that's tier 4. Once you get 2 of these seashells infused, that'll bump us up to tier 5, where we're going to use 9 bookshelves, 7 infused hell shelves, and then 2 heart-forged sea shelves. That should get our numbers up to 60 out of 100 Eterna, 50% Quanta, and 40% Arcana. Now this setup right here is meant for one thing and one thing only, and that is infusing deep shelves. On tier 5, you are going to want to infuse 12 of these dormant deep shelves. Now you may be like, John, that's a lot. That's a whole lot of deep shelves. I'm going to show you why, and you're going to want to go ahead and do this in advance because at this point it costs less. You have to have a max of 60 levels in order to infuse them versus later on, once we have a higher tier one, you're going to have a max of 100. So go ahead and run 12 of those dormant deep shelves through here, and they will give you actual deep shelves. Now you're going to craft these deep shelves into a couple other things, mostly using items from the deep dark, but let's go ahead and move on to tier 6. For tier 6, you might notice there's a lot less going on here. What we're looking to do is to get 2 soul touch skulk shelves. These are not difficult. It's going to take our deep shelf that we just infused, some skulk, and a soul lantern, which will make it the soul touch deep shelf. And then we're going to need a warden tendril, some more skulk, and a skulk catalyst. So again, mostly stuff from the deep dark. We're also going to want to keep several of those soul touch deep shelves, which again, soul lantern and skulk. And then we have the heart forge that we've made before, the 8 normal bookshelves, and then these. These 3 are geode encased bookshelves of stability. Now you'll notice the important thing about this is that it decreases Quanta by 15%. That's going to be essential to what we're doing with this setup. So go ahead and infuse all 12 deep shelves and then set this up right here where you have 2 soul touch skulk shelves, 2 heartforged sea shelves, 2 soul touch deep shelves, 3 geode encased bookshelves of stability, and 8 bookshelves. That should give you the numbers 80 out of 100 Eterna, 30% Quanta, and 60% Arcana. Now, like we talked about, this setup is for one thing, that is infusing Dragon's Breath. Now, you don't actually have to infuse a lot of it. However, if you are planning on making the All the Mods Star, or better yet, the Starry Bee and the All the Mods packs, then I would highly recommend going ahead and infusing it because it's kind of easier to infuse it now. It's also cheaper, and you need some of the infused Dragon's Breath in order to craft a star. So we can go ahead and put one of these in. You get 3 infused Dragon's Breath for each one. Go ahead and make however much you think you're actually going to need. And then you're going to use that Dragon's Breath to create these end shelves. Now, these end shelves are actually pretty easy to make. You're looking at end stone bricks, any type of ender pearl, a bookshelf, and then that infused Dragon's Breath. Now, we're not actually going to use the end shelves for anything. We're just going to upgrade that end shelf directly to one of these Draconic end shelves. More pearls, it's going to take a dragon head, and then some end shelves themselves. Now you may be like, whoa, that's way too much. I can't be spending a dragon head on that. In order to get a max tier setup, you kind of have to. In order to get to this max of 100 Eterna, this is the only way to do it. Now, the dragon heads are not inherently difficult to find. All you have to do is go to the end, fly around with a structure compass or an explorer's compass, and try to look for end cities. In about a quarter of the end cities that exist, you will find an end ship where the elytra's at, and a dragon head will be on the end of that. Highly recommend using a magnet so that the dragon head, once you mine it, doesn't just fall down in the void, you actually pick it up. Using that method, you can get a couple of these, and then you also can set up an extractor from Zycraft, and that will allow you to get more Dragon's Breath from the dragon head. But aside from the rabbit trail we just went down, go ahead and craft up one of these Draconic end shelves, and we're going to use that in our last final setup. You'll see that this setup right here has 100 Eterna, 100 Quanta, and 100 Arcana, with 11 enchanting clues. We're providing quantic stability, and it allows us to filter out which enchants we do not want. Also allows us to get the treasure enchants. All of this setup is just like two blocks wide. There's nothing out here, so it gives you a ton of extra room to work with. That entire setup is this. We have 5 echoing skulk shelves, 5 soul touch skulk shelves, a deep shelf of arcane treasure, a sea shelf of aquatic filtration, a geode encased bookshelf of stability, and a Draconic end shelf. I also use the sea shelf of aquatic filtration to filter out anything I don't want. So for instance, Curse of Vanishing and Curse of Binding. Put those 2 books right in there like this. Now those are generally the only 2 I put in there, but I really wanted to showcase that to show that it is an option in case you would like to use it. All right, so that's everything for setup number 1. Now setup number 2 looks a little bit different. We're doing some different things here intentionally. We are gonna have 8 soul touch deep shelves, 2 Draconic End Shelves, 1 Geode Encased Bookshelf of Stability, 1 Sea Shelf of Filtration, 1 Deep Shelf of Arcane Treasures, and then 5 of these Hell Shelves of Masterful Sight. Now, the reason we're doing this is because we are trying to get all of the exact same perks that we have with this setup, where we have 100, 100, 100, and 11 Enchanting Clues. But in this case, we're trying for 100 Eterna, 100 Quanta, 0 Arcana, and 11 Enchanting Clues. Now, the reason we're setting it up like this is because Eterna increases the max level of enchants that you can get. Quanta messes around with the randomness, so you could get really high or really bad or really good enchant. Using the Geode Encased Bookshelf of Stability provides you with a quantic stability so that Quanta's not a bad thing, which leads you to the third and final item on these enchanting tables, which is Arcana. Now, Arcana does one very specific and important thing, and it is that it makes rare enchants common. From my understanding, it doesn't actually do anything to the common enchants other than the fact it makes them less likely to get because the rare enchants are now just as likely to get as the common one. So the issue that I run into a lot is that I can enchant a ton of books on a 100% Arcana enchanting table, and very, very rarely will I get anything like a protection or a fortune or any of those other really basic Minecraft enchants that you're used to getting all the time. That's where this second setup comes into play. 0% Arcana means you have a much higher chance of getting very basic Minecraft enchants versus getting those really rare, cool enchants that you would get from the other setup. Again, the reason this is cool is because you're going to get a lot higher level enchants of these basic enchants like efficiency. Efficiency 9 is absolutely crazy, but you can only really get this on a bookshelf that's providing you basic Minecraft enchants versus one like this that's providing a lot of enchants, but a lot of those are sort of random, more rare enchants versus the basic Minecraft ones. So I would highly recommend having this setup here, but then also having a second setup with 0% Arcana by using these bookshelves here that we talked about. Now, the next thing we're working towards is this enchantment library and then the library of Alexandria. The enchantment library is not inherently difficult. It takes an enchanting table, 4 ender chests, and then 4 basically the infused shelves of any of the tiers. You could take your infused sea shelves, your deep shelves, or your hell shelves. In this case, since you're probably not using your hell shelves anymore, I'd recommend using those. And that'll give you this first tier enchantment library, which looks just like this. It allows you to open it up. You can take your enchanted books, throw them in here, and it will basically categorize them all for you, and then also assign a number of points based off the level that you entered. So all of these enchants were on that single book that we put in, and if we want to pull something out, we can click on it. Now, it's important to note that if you want to pull something out, you can just click on it, and that'll pull out a tier 1 of that book, but if you want to pull out the max tier, you have to shift click, and that'll pull out basically the highest tier that you can pull out. In this case, that's Quick Charge 4. Now, a note about the library is that you can only pull out up to the max level of the biggest book that you put in for whatever that enchant is. So I couldn't pull out a Quick Charge 5 book regardless of how many Quick Charge 4 books I put in there. I have to manually pull them out, combine them into a 5, put it back in, and then I can use all of those points to pull out more 5s. That's important because there are some books that you can only get by killing naturally spawned Apotheosis bosses. A fantastic example of this is the Fortune 15 pick that can only drop from Apotheosis bosses that Spoonerton made a video about. If you were to take that pickaxe, Fortune 15 base, pull the enchant off of it, put it into the library of Alexandria, instead of the max fortune level being 5 or 8 or whatever it is, the max fortune level that you can pull out is 15, which means that you could put a whole ton of Fortune 8 books in there and then pull out Fortune 15 as many times as you can, based on the number of points that it takes to pull out whatever that tier enchant is. That was the only part about this that was a little complicated to me when I first started, so hopefully that makes a little bit more sense now. Now, I would recommend not staying on this tier of enchantment library. I would recommend, especially if you've got the rest of this all set up, going ahead and upgrading to the Library of Alexandria. All you really have to do for this is infuse it. Now, the infusion is incredibly specific for this one, so make sure that your setup is exactly what it needs to be. It has to be 100% Eterna and 100% Arcana, but it has to be between 45 and 50% Quanta. So this setup right here, which is exactly that max tier setup with just 4 of these Geode Encased Bookshelves of Stability, would work perfectly for this. It allows you to put your enchantment library in there, you can infuse it, and get the Library of Alexandria. This library works exactly the same way. The only difference is it allows you to store more of each enchant. So the number of points that each enchant can have is dramatically higher. To illustrate this, I'll throw a Fortune 3 book in here. You'll see the max number of points it can have is 32,768, versus in here, if I throw it in, max number of points it can have is 1.1 billion. Little bit different. A lot more that you can store in the Library of Alexandria versus just this normal basic enchantment library. So use that. That should be everything. Hopefully that shows you in a more succinct way how to progress through each tier of this empathic enchanting setup. Hopefully that helps you clear up any questions you had. If there's anything I missed or that you found confusing or straight up that you think I'm just wrong on, please feel free to leave those in the comment section down below. More than happy to answer any questions you've got. And I can't tell you how many people have found those comments down there helpful. But that's all I got for you. Don't forget, you're special. I'll see you guys in the next one.